I'm here, Cynthia. Thank you.
There
Hey,
you are.
everybody.
Hello, Bob. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Good morning. First off, thanks for letting me hang out and take some time on your call this morning. Cynthia and Beth reached out to me last week and asked if I could take a couple of minutes to hop on here with all of you. One of the things that I do in my business is I specialize in helping leaders navigate through change and what oftentimes can be challenging and even sometimes uncertain or scary times for a field of consultants. And in my business, I've had the good fortune to work with many, many, many Juice Plus leaders over the years. And recently, I've been well versed on some of the things that have been happening in the company, and obviously, especially last week. And what I wanted to be able to do here today is maybe I want to share a concept with you that I think could be immensely helpful in helping each of you guide the people that you lead through this season of change, which, as you know, could be very exciting, but it could also be very uncertain for people. And so, what I want to do today is I want to introduce you to a concept and an idea. And here's all I'll ask is I just want you to notice if this may sound or feel familiar to you. I think you will connect with it. The reason why I think this is a natural place for me to be is in my business, I teach something called a love-led approach to business. And that's part of the reason why we've attracted so many Juice Plus leaders is because obviously y'all are as love-led as it comes. And I know Cynthia and Beth were sharing with me the specific group of people we have here today, which is kind of unique in the profession, right? It's not often that you get a chance to speak to a room of leaders that have been leading, some of you, for decades with such an incredible company like Juice Plus. But I want to introduce you to a concept that I call the leadership mask. And I think this will be very important, whether this is for your own personal leadership or the people that you're leading. I just want to help you gain some additional clarity into what may be going on. So, almost every leader in network marketing today has a story of loss. And it's been very unique, not just from a company perspective. Obviously, there's been lots of things that have happened in your company, but we've seen loss all across the profession over the last 4 to 5 years, especially since COVID, right? There was this short period of time where most people experience such an increase in business over that time. And then when things started to get back to kind of a new normal, we started to see a lot of uncertainty and change in the space. And so when I talk about loss, we see that a number of different ways. Maybe it's a company shutting down, right? We have for sure seen lots of that. Now, that's not the case here, but loss could also be leaders that you trusted walked away from the business. It could be that you built something real, which I know all of you have, and you've watched it slowly start to slip away, which I know has been the case for many of you. This is something I see through almost every company. Or maybe you didn't lose the business, you just lost your fire for it. But whatever the loss was, here's the thing that you did that a lot of other people haven't done, is you kept going and you rebuilt. You're rebuilding. And that takes strength. But here's a critical concept that I want to think about today. You can rebuild a business without rebuilding belief. You can show up every day. You can lead all the calls just like you always have. And you can even, in many cases, hit your goals. But it can still feel like you're watching your own life from the outside. And it's not because you stop caring. I don't know you, but I know the hearts of every one of you because you're here and you're a part of this company. You care deeply about the mission, about what the company does, about the people that you lead. And so it's not that you stop caring, but it's what happened after the loss occurred. A lot of times leaders will unconsciously start to pull back a little bit from a business and create distance because it feels smarter and it feels safer sometimes. And so here's where I introduce you to a concept called the mask. The mask is how fear unconsciously shapes our leadership without us even realizing it. And there are different types of masks that I see that leaders wear. But the one that we're going to talk about today that I think is most important is what I call a disconnected mask. Almost every leader that I work with in my business that has been through some form of loss winds up putting this on without them realizing. And here's ultimately what it is. The core fear of the leader that is wearing a disconnected mask is that if I go all in again, in a vulnerable way, just let's fully trust it like we have for most of our career, that I'll be hurt again. And so you can still be here and still be doing all the things, but what happens is you take your heart out of it. And listen, whether this is something that you've personally gone through yourself, I can promise you almost every single leader that you lead today finds themselves in this place. And the problem is this, is that this thing that you put on to protect yourself, because that's really what it is. Wearing a leadership mask, it's not about being fake. It's not even something you realize you do. And it's not about being lazy or checked out. It's a survival mechanism. It's a way that you protect yourself. But the problem is you take your heart out of it. And you find yourself in this place where you want to go all in. You want to lean into this change. You want to get back out there and do the things that created the growth in the business you have in the first place. But you just can't. And you're not sure why. And so here's what happens is you experience loss, and there should naturally be grief that comes with loss. But the system that we've all been given to grow our business doesn't allow time for grief to happen. See, I teach that there is a fear-led system that exists inside of every single company in our space for growing the business, including Juice Plus. Now, to be clear, when I say fear-led system, I don't mean bad company. I don't mean bad people. But here's the reality. Any system that would condition the people in it to believe on some level that their worth is tied to the results of their business, the rank and what they do, is a system that is based in fear. And here's what happens. It's very dangerous and it's very damaging. Is that when you are a leader inside of a fear-led system and you've reached a level in your business, whether it's a rank or a certain level of volume, and your business is no longer at that level, that is crushing for people's belief. And that's really where the mask begins, the disconnected mask begins to form. Because what's really important to realize is the high point of your business, no matter when it happened, becomes the new standard that you measure yourself against every single day. And there is nothing more damaging in our space than someone that has lost rank, even if by title they still have it publicly. They know that they're not qualified for that anymore. And the problem is that when you're leading inside of a fear-led system, you don't have real belief. You have borrowed belief. And that belief is rented from your results every single day. And as long as it's growing, as long as it's working, you believe, but you don't realize it's not real until the growth stops. And then the minute the growth stops, when the results are no longer there, or God forbid, your rank is taken away from you, the entire thing falls apart. And that's where the majority of your leaders find themselves today. And so the thing is, we need to see it first, and we need to recognize and understand what it is. To help you understand kind of the early stages of how this happens, because this is also part of our discussion around like, okay, what do we do to change this? Here's what I want you to think about. Each and every one of you is a love-led person, okay? But here's what happens when a love-led person gets put into a fear-led system. One of two things. They either leave completely. And how many times have you seen that over your career? You have someone that has this life-changing experience with the products. They feel called into doing this, whatever that might be for them in the beginning. And then just as quick as they came, they're gone. Well, that's why they leave, is because they get conditioned and they don't like it and they think this is not for me anymore. And an interesting thing to really think about is this. We don't start fear-led. We start love-led. Someone starts in Juice Plus because they feel called to something bigger. And this is the reason why when we watch people in the very beginning, why they have success, right? Think about it. You don't need a script to learn how to talk about the products. You don't need a content plan. You're not even creating content. You're just sharing something that you believe in, that you love, that has changed your life. You're sharing it, and that sharing is coming from love because it's a calling. But then here's what happens. You start to go to training. And you start to learn the system. And you learn a better way to talk to people. And you learn a better way to post. And you're taught that you have to treat it like a business and you have to know your numbers and you have to be coachable. These are all, I said all the same things my entire career, just didn't realize it. And what begins to happen is that you have this person with a love-led nature that slowly stop trusting their natural instincts in their business. And that's the moment when the mask begins to form. Because if a love-led person, if they're going to stay, they have to adapt. And that's what the mask is it's a survival mechanism. And so the mask begins to form then, but here's when it really shows up. And this is the moment that fear displaces calling as the thing that's navigating the business. I say that real fear shows up the morning after success. Every single leader that I talk to, and I see the head shaking right now, every room I say this, you immediately get it. Every leader that I have ever talked to, myself included, can point to the rank that they hit when right after they hit it, the pressure really showed up. Because think about it, when you're leading in a fear-led system, your rank is your entire identity. And the thing that what comes with it that keeps us trapped is the realization that you can lose the rank at some point, that you have to requalify every single month. And so what happens is you get to this level where all of a sudden now fear gets louder than calling, and that's what starts to take over your leadership. And then every single month, it's like the starting gun goes off and the pressure never stops. It's all about numbers and rank. The conversation that you're having is no longer, who could I help? How can I serve? Like in the beginning, when you're love-led and calling is leading, it like you really feel like you're building something meaningful and you're present to that. You're connecting. You're not overthinking it. But when fear takes over, it's all about the business and it's all about the results and it's all about the numbers. And here's the problem from a leader's standpoint is when you start to grow a team, here's what you notice early on. That other people don't just naturally move like you did. That they need a little bit of encouragement. They need a little bit of motivation. They need to be constantly reminded over and over again, taught and trained what to do. And here's what we do unconsciously without realizing it. We start to push. Because if we don't push, they don't move. But we see when I do push, they move and they get results. Now remember, when you're leading in a fear-led system, every single result around you is a measure of your self-worth. But here's the problem. It doesn't feel like pushing when it's working. It just feels like leadership. It feels like what we do. And what happens is, and I can chart this out, it is uncanny, same story, every person. You can push a team to a certain level or a certain rank. And when you think about the push and why teams move, they don't move because they have belief. They don't move because they have a vision. They don't move because they have a goal. They get caught up in your goal and your vision and your rank. And you sweep them up in the momentum, and then you get to the rank, and there's always a rank in the comp plan where people consistently get stuck, because what happens is once you hit the rank, now you need the people that you push to get there to do it on their own, and they can't because they don't have real belief. And this is why leaders get stuck. This is why you see businesses fall off. And this is why the pressure ratchets up even more the higher you get. Now, the second the pushing stops working, now it feels like push. And here's what a love-led person will do when they find themselves in that place. They will pull back from the push. Because as a love-led person, when you see the damage the pushing is doing to the relationships and you feel the pressure, you're like, that's not the kind of leader that I want to be. So you pull back. But here's the problem. The push never stops. It just changes targets, and you push yourself twice as hard. I'll lead by example. I'll go do the work. I'll find the new people. But here's the problem. Your team is still watching you push. And so the conditioning is still happening. The cost is still the same. And so, like, when I talk about the industry as a whole, there's no denying we have seen incredible change in our space. But the misconception is when people see this, they say the industry is changing. You know, some people will say the industry is dying, and I say that's not true at all. What's dying is fear-led leadership. That's what's dying. The system is crumbling all around us. Look, the reason why a company doesn't do well is because the people in it are no longer able to continue to produce. And the reason why they can't produce has nothing to do with the company, and it doesn't even have to do anything with the leaders in the company. It's the system that they were given. What you don't realize is the second fear took over growth, it was always going to break. It was never designed to last or be what you wanted it to be. And so there's these different versions of masks. There's teacher, there's performer, there's pusher. But the fourth one is the one you're dealing with, which is disconnected. Because when you experience real loss and that disconnected mask comes on, it's a really difficult situation to navigate. Because you have a whole team of people, they're still getting on the calls. They're still showing up. They want to be excited. They're saying the right thing, but their heart's not in it anymore. And they don't know how to move forward. So here's the first step. The first step is actually seeing and understanding the problem. And what I say to every leader that I work with, and this is an important thing for people to hear, and I'll say it to you. You have not failed. You have not failed as a leader. You have been faithful to a system that has been failing you. And you are not broken. And I bet most of you have felt this for a long time. I spoke to a woman 30 years in this space, incredible career. She said, you just put to words something that I felt for 30 years of my career, but I never actually knew. She said, I always felt like I had to choose between my calling and being a successful leader. Those two things always felt in opposition of one another. She said, you want to know what you gave me? She goes, the greatest gift you gave me by teaching me this is you gave me language to name something that I've always felt. And that created a space where I could finally start to give myself permission to be myself in my business. See, that's really what needs to happen moving forward. The best part about this is it's not about becoming anyone different. It's not about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you were before fear took over. It is about restoring the original leader. It is about allowing your actual love-led nature to be the thing that you trust in your business. And in a practical way, that first step is all about calling. Because that's always what's been driving it. That's the reason why you've been here decades, some of you. The reason why you will never quit is because there has always been a calling driving what you do. Here's the problem is fear shrunk it inside of Juice Plus. The fear got louder. The calling got so small, it never leaves, but you forgot it was there. And what I teach leaders is I say we have to let calling become the direction again. When you are love-led, the direction is no longer the results. The direction is your calling. And your calling, by the way, is way bigger than Juice Plus. Your calling is not Juice Plus. Juice Plus is a vehicle to serve your calling. That was the original order, is you had a calling and you were presented with this thing called Juice Plus and you said, yes, this is it. This lets me do my calling's work. And that's why it felt different then. And now we have a bunch of leaders in this space that have forgotten that, and they keep trying to realign with a company or find a new company to align with. You don't align with a company. You align with your calling. And you put the calling in its rightful place as the thing that leads, and then you see the business differently. This is the work. This is the work. It's remembering, it's restoring. I've never seen something more powerful. Ever. And, when I think about a company like yours, is there a better example of a company that is truly made up of this stuff and its heart and soul? I don't know. You'd be hard pressed to find one. And I know I don't know all of you, but the fact that you're here and you've been leading in this company for so long, that tells me all I need to know about you. And listen, every single leader that I've ever worked with in Juice Plus, and I've worked with a lot of them, this is what they're made of. This is what's inside of them. And so leading your team forward, that's what needs to happen. That's what it's all about. And it does mean, practically, it does mean that there are some different things that you probably need to do. But the thing that I teach is that people don't do what you teach. And they don't duplicate what you do. They duplicate your posture. They duplicate your mask. Or they'll duplicate your love and your calling. And so this is what I do in my business is I walk leaders through this and we teach them how to embody something different. It's really powerful to understand, because here's the natural tendency. The natural tendency of the mask is to hear something like this and say, oh my God, I wish my team was on here. They need to hear this so bad. I could teach this. No, this is not a strategy to teach. This is something to embody first. This is something for you to do. Because here's what's so powerful about this is the power of being love-led and really letting your team see something different from you. is that automatically begins to transfer. It creates a space. Look, the truth of the matter is, and it's not fair, because I know every single one of you, you're a human just like everyone else, and you have real life struggles and you have these challenges, but your team doesn't see those. Because the system will tell you it's not good to share it. Fear, your mask, will never truly allow you to share your own challenges. Here's what we'll do as a leader. We'll take something that feels like a truth. We feel called in the moment to say, wow, like I'm going through this hard time. I'm struggling with my own belief. And we'll feel called to want to share that, but then our mask will immediately kick in and the system will say, no, you can't share that. So you want to know what we do? We turn it into a lesson. We say, you're going to struggle with beliefs sometimes. It's going to be hard. We'll talk about our hard times from years ago that we got through. There's a difference between teaching a truth and living a truth. And you want to know the most powerful way to build the belief in the people that you're leading is have the courage and the vulnerability to let them know that you still struggle with this. And listen, when we think about everything the company's gone through, we've got to acknowledge the challenges, right? You can't ignore that. Look, it is real. But what they need from you right now is not encouragement. It's not motivation. It's honesty and vulnerability. Because when the leader is able to say, this is what I'm struggling with, this is what I'm going through, that's how you connect with people. Because they look at you and they think, I'll never be them. This would be my advice to you. It's not about complaining, but it's about being real with people and letting them know that the way they're feeling is actually normal and it's okay. And we're going to get through this together because we are going to build something more powerful. And it's not going to be fear-led. It's going to be love-led. And that starts with all of you. So that was what I wanted to share with you today. I hope on some level it helped. I'm happy to talk more about this. I could talk all day long about this stuff. This is my favorite thing to talk about. And I truly am, by the way, I'm honored to be able to be in this room. I just want to say that, right, with this group of people. And so, Cynthia, if there's anything else that you want me to speak to, or I don't know if questions would be appropriate, or if you just want to kick me off so you guys can talk, you won't hurt my feelings, but I'm happy to go deeper on any of this if you think it'd be helpful.
That was impactful. I've taken tons of notes here. I related to so much because I think from a little girl growing up in maybe my generation, we were taught to stuff those emotions, to wear the mask. We live in the perfect world here. Everything's great, right? Everything's good. And what you may not know, and what I became vulnerable about through the past 2 years and opened up, and it was tough to do it, was that I had been amazing at covering up that I was a caregiver for my husband that had dementia. And I thought I was really good at covering that up. And then I made the conscious decision through therapy to be vulnerable to my team, to everyone, even globally, on a global leadership call. And people stared at me like they perceived that I'd gone from A to Z, that nothing in my life had ever gone wrong. And I just had this clear path to success, when in fact, behind the scenes, I had major setbacks. And so with being open and vulnerable and authentic, something I never expected, never even thought about, which I refer to as emotional revenue, that I cherish more than, don't put a dollar sign on it.
Yeah.
was the support, the love of this team. And I say this team, I mean the Juice Plus community, because
Yeah.
I look at everyone as the family globally. And that has fed me, supported me to be a better leader, better person, better human. And so, what may have started out a business 36 years ago as driven by financial fear, today I'll do this till I can't because of the emotional revenue of trusted relationships. And I say trusted, of people with character, um, that have supported me and through tough times, like leading this team that when our leader that we put on a big pedestal, Cheryl, was affected by COVID and lots of other things and could not be with us any longer. Um, it was the worst time for me to really kind of orchestrate this call and keep it going. But in hindsight, Bob, it was and everyone on here, it was the best time because it gave me responsibility. It
Mm.
gave me perseverance. It gave me resilience and grit, and which makes me a better person. So today, I've really you inspired me. You have no idea, beyond belief. When I spoke to you last week, I think it was Friday. I really spent some serious time looking at what is my calling, going back to that heartfelt calling, and versus purpose, because they're different.
Yeah. I can speak to that for a second if you want, because
I
I think
would
that's important. Yeah.
love you to.
Yeah. So, I'm sure there are people in this room that feel this way. You've certainly seen this, right?
Mhm.
In my own leadership, I mean, I spent over 10 years in the field as well. And I never connected with the concept of why. And I mean, I would sit in those meetings, and my upline always said, everybody, you'll know it's your why when it makes you cry, right? And I'd hear these people that would share these stories, and I'd be like, man, that's so powerful, but like, what's my thing, right? And so many times we hear you need a why, you need a purpose, and what we naturally do is we look inside of ourselves for the answer, right? And I actually got to the point where I just believe that part of the reason why I was struggling is because I couldn't find a big enough why, right? It's like, we think about, retiring to this or freedom, or it's there. It just, I never connected with it. Now I understand why, is because we were taught to look in the wrong place. It's not about a why, and it's not about purpose, because those things most of the time are focused on you. And they're also usually tied to some sort of an outcome or a result or a goal. And that's fear led. See, what you really were searching for is your calling. And your calling doesn't live inside of you, it lives outside of you. Calling is love with an assignment. Calling is the thing that actually is always leading the way for us, whether we realize it or not. Most of the decisions that we make in our life in terms of how we spend our time or what we do are tied to the calling that we have. We just usually don't clarify it. And what's really powerful is that when you are love led, love led is, it's not a feeling, it's not a mindset, it's an actual order of operations for your leadership. When you're love led, practically in your business, calling becomes the direction of everything you do. When you're fear-led, results are the direction of everything you do. Everything that we do in our business, when fear is the source, it is a calculation based off of the likelihood it will get us the result that we want. It's all about numbers and goals and this and that. And so any individual that's leading in a fear-led system has an unstable identity, that's tied to their results, and they don't have real belief. And that's where it always breaks down. But when you're love led and calling is leading, you have a stable identity that's not tied to your rank. You don't need somebody to say yes, or you don't need your last post to perform well in order for you to feel good about yourself. And when an individual is leading from that order of operations, they have embodied real belief, because their belief is tied to something bigger and stronger than the business itself. And the business becomes the byproduct of that. But you wind up building a business that actually feels like it matters. You know how beautiful it is? And y'all have expressed this. You've experienced this many times in your career, but the problem is a lot of the people you're leading have never really experienced this. When your business is an expression of your calling, and every single day you are clear about that, here's what you realize. Growth does not have to feel like pressure, and leadership doesn't have to be stressful. You can be totally at peace every single day and still be growing a business. But the difference is you're connecting because you're present. And you're building real leaders that don't need your push or motivation. They actually rise up without you. That's what calling is all about. I'll give you a practical example. It's not slower growth, Jennifer, at all. In the beginning, it feels slower because you have to purposefully slow down and do this work on yourself. But I'll give you an example, and that's a great question. This is a huge mindset shift, man. I wish I would have learned this earlier in my career. So I wear, the mask that I wear is a teacher mask. And all of the patterns of the mask are similar in this thing. Here's an example of how this works. Think about how many times over the course of a week you have someone on your team that comes to you for help or support. So like for me, I would always have people that would come to me for help with like a post that they wanted to make, or a conversation that they wanted some feedback, or they just wanted to know what to say to someone, right? These are the situations we see all the time in our leadership when we're growing a business. Now, here's what I didn't realize. My natural inclination, if you're wearing a mask, is always to want to fix or give advice or help, because that's what we do, right? They're coming to us for help. Let's give them the answer they want. Here's what I didn't recognize. Every single time I gave an answer to someone, or I provided help or training and I told them what to do, I broke their self-trust in themselves. I reminded them that they can't do it on their own. And I also created a dependency on me to fix them. When someone's coming to you for help, it's never because they don't know what to do. And it's never because they don't know what to say. It's that the system taught them to not trust their own natural love-led instincts. And so when I realized that, and this has only been a recent realization for me, by the way, within the last 6 months of working on this stuff I'm teaching you today. I just finished a book last week on it, so it's been a lot of deep introspection. But here's what I've realized is that when someone's coming to you, now that I understand the order of operations, and I understand that these individuals don't have real belief, what they really need from you is they need belief. They need you to transfer belief into them. Now, first off, you can't transfer belief wearing a mask. It's impossible. Can't do it. Because when you're talking to your people, you're actually not even talking to them. You're talking to their mask. And so you've got a leader wearing a mask talking to another person wearing a mask. You're both performing what you think leadership looks like. No wonder no one connects and nothing gets done. And so whether it's fixing or teaching or even just encouraging or motivating, it's all still pushing. It just looks a little bit different. And so what I realized is that people need something different from me. So what if, here's a thought. What if your goal with every interaction with someone on your team that you were leading, what if your goal was to get them to trust themselves just a little bit more by the time you're done? And so here's where this becomes very practical. Let's take the example of like a post. How many times have you you felt called to share something in a piece of content. Now, usually those things are attached to something we're going through, right? But then the second it comes up, what do we immediately do? Our mask kicks in and we start perfecting, polishing, editing, turn it into a lesson, something I can teach. But the seed of it was love-led, and it was something important. So what we need to be able to do is we need to be able to get people to trust that more. And so what was very hard for me with a teacher mask, because I love fixing, man. I got the framework. I'll break it down. Boom, 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 boom. They love it. I love it. And then all I've done is now they have to come to me every single time they need help. They bring every post to me now. And I'm just like, why are they not getting it? Well, here's the reason why. And so now somebody brings a post to me, or, you know, they would bring a post to me and they're like, well, can you take a look at this? Here's the first thing I say. Why do you want me to take a look at this? What about this post? I go on their page. I'm like, oh, but this post here had 30 likes. How come you don't want me to take a look at this post? Oh, because this post got 0 likes. Oh, okay. So what do you think that this post meant? Well, I must have done something wrong. Okay, is that your mask or is that your calling? Oh, okay. So now I only believe I do something right if it performs well. But then they bring me the post and I say, okay, well, what felt most like you? And I have them find that kernel of truth that was in there. And then I say, what feels least like you? And then they point to the promotion, the teaching. And I just say, well, what might it look like for you to just share that in a post? 3, 4 messy sentences. Or maybe they have a conversation with a leader. I just coached somebody through this the other day. Somebody, like a leader of hers that just wearing a disconnected mask, right? Help her see that first. She's being negative. She's being toxic. I'm sure there's some situations like this that you're dealing with. Now, her mask wanted to go in and pretty much say, boom, why you can't do that, right? We have a framework. We walk people through. I go, okay, well, let's see her for who she is. She's a love-led person wearing a disconnected mask. What does she really need from you right now? Let's pull the business out of this. What does she need from you? Let's see. She's lost belief in herself. So what does she need from you? And in the past, I would have just given her, just say this to her. That would have done nothing. But in that moment, I said, well, just in your heart, she's struggling with belief. What's one honest thing from your heart that you would want to say to her that you think could help her? And what's really powerful is you sit there and you watch someone struggle to find the answer, because they've lost, they know it's in there, but they don't trust it at all. They won't even let it come out. But here's what you do. You hold space. Your mask will always want to fix. It will want to help. It will want to save. You fight that urge. And you sit there quiet and you wait, but they will always find the answer. I say, just imagine you're sitting across from a friend of yours, someone you love. They're struggling. What do you say to her? And then what's powerful is you watch the entire energy shift. They soften and they just say it. And I say, that's it. That was your calling. That wasn't your mask. That wasn't your results. That was it. Go say that. But I never give the answer. I support them, because what I did was they leave it thinking, wow, I did have the answer. And that felt different. And I just say, trust that. And they leave and they've built trust in themselves. We're re-strengthening calling. We're restoring the original order. That is worth more than 1,000 times you fix them, because that person leaves there with more trust and belief. And so the answer is, sometimes does it feel slow in the beginning? Yes. But what you will create will be unlike anything you ever created before, because we're building people now. And eventually what will happen is you'll experience growth that doesn't require so much of you anymore. that allows you to feel more at peace with yourself. And so it's an entirely different operational system for your business. That's what Love Led is. Susan, the name of the book is Love Led Growth. It's not going to be out until probably October. I just on Friday submitted my manuscript to my publisher, so thank you. But I'm really excited for it. I'll tell you what I will do. Here's what I will do. If I can trust everybody in here for your eyes only, I'll share a chapter with you if you want. I have the introduction of the book that I can share with you that I think might be, only because I think it might be really helpful as just a follow-up for this conversation. I'll share a specific chapter from the book. And I'd love to hear from any of you how it connects with you. And even on that note, like, if there is anything that I can do to support any of you individually, please don't hesitate to reach out and connect with me. I love your company. My kids have eaten the gummies most of their young childhood, and every leader that I've ever worked with from this company has been such a beautiful human being and such an amazing person. Anything that I can do to support all of you through this season of just change, that's what I want to do, because that's my calling. And so if there's anything I can do, please let me know. So I'll get the chapter to Cynthia and to Beth, and they can share it with you. So.
Wow. So what I just got to ask, we have this saying, instead of being the king or the queen, be a king or queen builder. So is that kind of what you're saying here? Your help. I mean, instead of us being the fix-it person.
Yeah, I mean that's essentially what we're talking about here. Yeah. I just think, but yes, it is what we're talking about. But here's where we're taught wrong. Duplication is not a strategy. Because the second you make it a strategy, it's fear-led. Duplication is emotional.
Ooh.
Every conversation you have, you're either transferring pressure or safety to the other person. Your mask will always transfer pressure, because you'll never be truly present. You'll be performing the conversation, trying to get a desired outcome, which is getting them to move or getting them to believe in themselves. That's all fear-led. Being love-led and being present in conversations looks very different than anything I'd ever done in my career. And listen, it comes from a good place. Like we don't push because we're controlling. We push because we care. We encourage because we want to see them win. But encouragement and motivation is still pushing, right? It's fear in a nicer, more pretty set of clothing. That's all it is. And so you have to see it in yourself. You have to recognize how fear shows up in your own leadership so you can lead yourself through that and be able to create the same for others. Now, the only thing that had been missing my whole career is the concept of the mask. I've never taught anything in my career that is more easily and immediately recognizable in people. I can explain each mask. I can take 2 minutes and they'll be like, yep, I'm a teacher. I'm a performer. I'm a pusher. They see themselves in it right away. They know it. And like when you can create that awareness and people start to see it, they're like, oh, wow, okay, I never recognized that was that. And it just creates a space for you to shift into and lead with something different. And like the most beautiful part about it is this is not hard. The only hard part about it is the fact that we've got, for many of you, decades of conditioning, right? But when you experience it in the moment, what is easier than just being yourself? Like when you actually learn how to give yourself permission to just be who you are, the love-led version of you, not the leader or the rank, right? Like just experience that in your business, it is effortless. And that's what we want to try to do, is we want to try to build a system to be able to reinforce that. And I think if you can do that in a company like Juice Plus, It's really powerful because now you're creating true alignment all the way from the founders of the company and their original mission through the people, through the operating system. It's like almost like the operating system has been working against the people and the mission and the hearts. When we can bring those things into alignment, man, that's a really powerful place to be.
And people can read your heart, and they can discern whether you're coming from a point of making a sale or coming because you care. And you leave them with a feeling of either you're going for the sale or you're going for because you're coming from the heart. You really care. You really want to make a difference in their life.
Yeah. We want the people that we lead.
Mm-hmm.
Two things. We want them to really truly feel seen and heard and understood by us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we want them to be able to see who we really are in our business.
Mm-hmm.
Not our mask, not our performance,
Mm-hmm.
like the actual person we are. That isn't always positive, that it isn't always great, that does struggle with belief. Not to complain, but to be able to connect.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's like when you're truly present in a conversation,
Mm-hmm.
it's really powerful. You know, and we're not talking about one of the things, you know, leadership. I have a chapter of this in the book, how fear-led leadership becomes different things over time. And it eventually starts feeling more like therapy for the leaders that are in it. Because what happens is we reach a point where the pushing doesn't work anymore. We pull back from that. And then we start teaching and motivating from afar, and that doesn't work. And if you're a love-led person, you're never going to just leave your people alone. So the only thing you have left is, well, let me just hold all of their emotions and let me just have them tell me everything that's wrong with them. Right. And that feels loving. And in the moment that creates like this moment where you connect, but nothing changes. And now you find yourself in a position where you are so drained from leadership because it's like people are just dumping all their problems on you and you want to help, but that's not working. And it's like at some point you have to recognize it just requires something different from you.
Mm-hmm. You know what's pretty powerful about this that I think everyone's probably recognizing? How this not only applies in our Juice Plus business, but in our personal lives with our children, with our grandchildren. And as moms, we're just like our instinct is to fix everything for everybody. And it continues to being a grandparent.
Yeah.
And to stand back and catch ourselves and not try to be the fixer.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I have two young kids, and that's for sure, you know, present for me. But the thing is, it's like your full love-led nature does not transfer into your business. Like a lot of the things that you struggle with in your business, you don't struggle with in your life. Mm-hmm. But you do here, because the second you step into your business, the conditioning kicks in and the performance begins. Mm. You know, and it's like people don't get burned out because they work too hard.
Oh, yeah.
Because when you're working truly from your calling, you never burn out.
Right.
Because you wind up building a business that actually gives you more than takes from you. Mm-hmm. You burn out because you get tired performing 24/7. Mm-hmm. And when your self-worth is attached to your results and the results are no longer there, then now your self-worth gets attached to your daily to-do list. Because you need something to pull that worth from. And so now you're consistent. You can never stop. You can never let up, because if you take even a day off, you feel guilty because you're not being a leader. That's fear. That's the stuff that breaks people. That's what burns them out. And it doesn't have to be that way. So, well, listen, I want to thank all of you for letting me hang out with you today. You know, I mean it. If there's anything that I can do to support any of you individually, I am more than happy to help in any way that I can. And, you know, Cynthia and Beth, thanks for inviting me on here today and getting a chance to share with all of you.
Oh, we can't thank you enough. The comments are coming in. Everyone can unmute themselves and just let Bob know how appreciative we are of your
Thank
time
you.
and your
Thank you
expertise.
very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Bob.
It's my
Bob.
pleasure,
Great to
everybody.
meet you.
Yeah.
All right. Let me know how
Thank
I
you,
can
Bob.
support you. Take care.
You
Bye-bye.
are
Great to meet
meeting
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank